Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, I am Ahmed Mumtaz Mustahsan, your teacher for CSE 141 Introduction to Computer Programming. In the last lecture, we had a fun and we really carried out a number of exercises in the Visual C++ environment. I demonstrated you the use of the compiler and the build facilities available in Visual C. I expect from you that you will be spending a lot of time in doing the exercises and the solved examples provided in your textbook as well as in your reference book. So from the last point where we have achieved a milestone by completing the control structures, and we have discussed the concept of sequential structure, the concept of the statements which are used in the sequential structure, then the control structure, if structure, and the repetitive structures in which we talked about the loops, for loop, while loop, do while loops. So I expect from you that you will carry out a lot of exercises and go through the concepts that I have tried to demonstrate you and try to teach you in the previous lectures. So dear students, from today we'll start another concept, and that is the functions. But before I start functions, I would like to give you some concept of the functions, that in our daily life we are dependent on many people. Dependent upon many people because we have assigned them number of assignments. We have given them different tasks. For example, we go to the workshop and we request the mechanic to fix the problems in our car. Similarly, we have assigned our gardener to mow our lawn. Although we can do everything by ourselves, most of the tasks that we can do by ourselves, but it is much more convenient and easy that we distribute the task among different team members. The same concept is in the computer program, where we distribute the task. We distribute the task to different modules, to different set of modules. That makes our task much easier. हमारी job जो है, that becomes very simpler and easier. So instead, we write one single program which is a very long program, very complex program, and then we just try to find out the errors in a very big program. It's easier that we split up the program into different modules, into different smaller modules. When we split up the program into different smaller modules, it becomes much more convenient. It becomes very easy to handle these smaller modules. How? We'll talk about it, and but now I defined the function. A function is a self-contained block of statements. That अभी जो मैंने आपको बताया कि we can break up the big program into small module. हम इस module को कहते हैं a function. So, which is a self-contained block of statements that perform a coherent task of some kind. यानी कि set of statements are logically combined together to carry out a certain task, to provide certain solution to a certain problem. So, every C program can be thought of as a collection of these functions. This is one of the capability and one of the power of the C language, that you can distribute the task into the smaller functions, and then you can combine all these functions to carry out the more complex and very lengthy task that you are required to perform in order to find out the certain solution. So using a function is something like hiring a person to do a specific job for you. For example, you can see the examples that we have already used, the printf function, the scanf function. So what we have done, we have assigned a task to a printf function to carry out the printing task, to carry out the display result task for us. So we can send the data to the printf function and we forget about the minute details that how this data will be printed. We expect from the printf function that it should print whatever data we provide to the printf function. Similarly, we have a scanf function, and we expect from the scanf function that whatever data we are supposed to read in from the keyboard, the scanf function should facilitate us. We just pass on the arguments. Arguments क्या है? मैंने आपको बताया था. The data, the information that we provide to the scanf functions. For example, if we want to read the data of A, so we pass on scanf within quotes the forward specifier in which we want to read in the data, and then the address of the variable with the ampersand sign, with the address operator of A. So ampersand A. So the scanf function provide us the result of the task that we have performed. And what was the task? To read the value of A from the keyboard into the variable A, and that variable A is passed on to our function, to our main program, where we have requested the scanf function to carry out the task. Another example, just quickly, I'll come back to this and explain you all the details. So just to give you a taste, this is a very simple main program, void main, and then I've used message. Message is a function, and then we have a printf. I wrote my first function in C, and then we have defined here the message and then the details of the message. Message basically is a function that prints a very simple statement. This is my first function in C. So let us see how does it work. When we call this message here, when we call the first line, that is the message, the control is transferred from this main to the function message. The control, this main is suspended temporarily. कुछ देर के लिए main रुक जाता है. Control is transferred to this message. From this message, the control starts, and after this curly bracket, it prints the message. This is my first function C. And after completing that, when it executes this closing bracket, so the control comes back just after to the next statement from where this function is called. So next statement इसमें क्या है? Printf. So the control is available to the printf, and then it will write I wrote my first function in C. Or message ने क्या लिखा था? This is my first function in C. So let's see what I have given in the explanation. When we call the function message, passes the function to the message, the activity of the main is temporarily suspended. Okay? It falls asleep means it is suspended, and while the message function wakes up, message function has certain tasks to do. When the control is transferred to the message function, this message function wakes up mean it start execution. It start executing. ये execute होना शुरू हो जाता है by just going to the executing the first statement it has been provided. So when the message function runs out of the statement to execute, हमने क्योंकि इसमें सिर्फ एक ही स्टेटमेंट प्रोवाइड की थी, just one single statement that we had provided to the message function to execute. So after writing or after printing the statement, this message function stops. So it then, once it is stopped, then it again goes to sleep, and the control is transferred back to the main function. So what do we have in the output? In the output, we have two statements. This is my first function in C, and I wrote my first function in C. Okay, be careful. In our main program, we say I wrote my first function in C, and in the message I said this is my first function in C. Since this function is called before this statement, so what it does? It prints the message first. This is my first function in C, and after completing this task given in this function, it executes this one. Okay, so in the output we get this is my first function in C, that is the task which is done by the message function, and then I wrote my first function in C. Okay, so this was just a quick run of the message, but I promised that I will teach you each and every concept that is related to the function. So first of all, we say the strength of the C language is the C functions. We can split the task among the functions, that makes our life easier. So we already are familiar with some functions. Kaun se? We know main. Main is a function, we know that, and this is the main function that receives the control from the operating system to execute. हम इसके बारे में मज़ीद कुछ बात करेंगे थोड़ी देर तक. Then we already know printf function and scanf function. So we have a little bit knowledge and understanding of the function. सिर्फ उनके नाम की हद तक नहीं, बल्कि we have used main and we have used printf and we have used scanf. So when I will teach you the concept, please keep in mind the concepts that you already know regarding the printf and the scanf function. That's why I have used it in my first slide, so that you may not consider yourself unfamiliar with the terminology and the use of the function. Okay, मैंने आपको बताया था कि function क्या है? Is set of statements working together. The statements which are supposed to carry out certain tasks. Obviously, you will put some statement logically in some sequence, logically in some order to carry out certain tasks, and that every valid C statement you can use it in a function. Whatever the statement जो आप main में use करते थे, आप उसको तमाम statements को, तमाम features को, तमाम facilities को, that you were using it in the main, you can use it in your function. They cannot run independently and are always called by the main program or by some other functions. So this is also a very important concept, that the functions, you cannot just simply use the printf function or then you can transfer the control to the printf function. No, you know that operating system control is transferred to the main. So you can call your functions in the main program, or even you can call the functions within the functions. आप एक function में किसी दूसरे function को भी call कर सकते हैं. हमने कहा था कि ये functions क्या हैं? These are called modules. So थोड़ा सा अपने आप को further educate करते हैं कि different languages में इन functions को different नाम assign किया गया है. For example, Fortran language में we call it as a sub-programs, subroutines or sub-programs. Pascal language में we call it as procedures or function. And in C++, these modules are called functions and classes. अभी हम अपनी तवज्जो जो है सिर्फ functions तक ही महदूद रखेंगे, and later on we'll talk about the classes. So functions के different नाम हो सकते हैं, sub-programs and subroutines, procedures or the functions. So further information regarding the functions. Functions, they are very much useful when a block of statement has to be written, executed again and again. Suppose you are required to carry out certain tasks many times. So what you need to do? Either you will repeat the task every time it is required to be done, or you just write down very carefully the set of statements that can perform or that can carry out the task. You put them together, you name it as a function and use it whenever you are required to carry out that particular task. Okay, so that makes your life easier. You will carry out all the efforts and all the work one time, and after concentrating the work and after carrying out the work one time, you will save it to use it repeatedly in your program wherever you require to carry out the task. Instead of writing all the instructions again and again, you will call those set of instruction that you will save under certain name, and we'll talk about it. How can we save that and how can we build these functions? At this time I'm just going through quickly the features, the power that these functions provide in a C programming environment. They are useful when program size are too large and complex. मैंने आपको बताया था कि अगर आपका प्रोग्राम बहुत बड़ा हो जाए तो इट इज़ डिफ़िकल्ट टू हैंडल. उसकी एरर्स को ढूंढना डिफ़िकल्ट है, उसको मैनेज करना डिफ़िकल्ट है, उसके डिबग करना उसको डिफ़िकल्ट है, कॉन्सेंट्रेट करना डिफ़िकल्ट है. When you are doing a big job, try to break the big job into smaller pieces of jobs and then try to concentrate on each and every smaller piece of job, and that we can do it by using functions in our C++. It's worked like a top-down modular programming technique to solve the problem. So just like the management that is on the top, then we have multiple managers, then each manager has got one team. Similarly, you can organize your project, you can organize your very complex and large size program into a tree structure, like into a top-down structure, like so that you can have a main program, then you can have a functions, then each function you can have a multiple functions. So in this way you can properly organize a very complex task or very complex program. They are also used to reduce the difficulties during debugging program. I am repeating this concept again and again that आपको debugging करना और programs की errors को ढूंढना जो है वो convenient होगा. So the length of the source program can be reduced by using function at appropriate places. It is easy to locate and isolate a faulty function for further investigation. ये वही चीज़ है कि बड़े प्रोग्राम के अंदर आपको किसी फॉल्ट को ढूंढना मुश्किल होगा, डिफिकल्ट होगा, लेकिन if the fault is in a function, then the system will report an error within a function. So you will quickly know which function has got an error. So you will be concentrating on that particular function, and then in a few minutes I will provide you some more details that will help you out to see how can you concentrate in debugging the faults in the particular function. So the function can be used by many other programs. Thus a C program can build their own library. Whatever the effort you will do, if you try to save your functions with different names, with appropriate names, so you can maintain your library of functions. Maybe at the end of the lectures, maybe at the end of the last few lectures, I will also try to teach you how can you prepare your own library of functions so that you can use whatever efforts you are doing it now, maybe in the next semester, maybe in the advanced stage, maybe at the stage when you are carrying out your projects, you can utilize the same functions that you have developed today or you have developed in this particular course. So in the last lecture, I'll try to teach you how can you maintain your library, and then you can reuse your library in your future projects. So students, functions are modularize a program. Basically you modularize a large program into small modules, and that allow you the reusability. Reusability means you can reuse these functions whenever you require them. There's another concept. I'm slowly and gradually introducing the concepts that are related with the functions. So now I'm introducing another concept, which is the local variables. Although I will talk about it in much more details in the rest of the lecture and maybe in the next lecture also, but I have to introduce it at some time. So the local variables are declared in a function. Definitions are in a function definitions. Okay, so whenever you define a function, abhi hum baat karenge declaration of a function, definition of a function. So whenever you are defining a function, you will declare the variables. You will provide the variable that will be useful for executing the statement within that particular function. These variables which are defined within a function are called the local variables. So these local variables are known to that function in which they are defined. जिस function के अंदर आप variables को define कर रहे हैं, these variables are called local variables to that particular function. वो आपको उसी function के अंदर नजर आएंगे. आप सिर्फ उन variables को उसी function के अंदर use कर सकते हैं. Okay, so it means that the variable that you defined within a function are only visible within that particular function, means they are only known within that particular function in which you have defined them. Then the parameters. Local variables passed to the function when called provide outside information. Whenever you call a function, you pass on certain arguments, certain local variable to that particular function in the form of parameters. Do you remember any parameter that we provided to printf function? Yes. Double quotes के अंदर we provided the first parameter and then comma and then the first parameter, then the second parameter. जितने format specifier हम use किए हमने डबल कोट्स के अंदर, उतने ही आर्गुमेंट हमने फर्स्ट आर्गुमेंट के बाद सेपरेटिंग बाय कॉमा प्रोवाइड किए. So what they do? Basically, all the parameters provide certain information to that function. They carry certain information. वो आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड से, कॉलिंग प्रोग्राम से इंफॉर्मेशन कैरी करके उस फंक्शन में लेकर जाते हैं. ओके, सो you pass on the data to the function to carry out certain tasks, and that you do with the help of parameters, which are also known as arguments. Okay. Experience has shown that the best way to develop and maintain large program is to construct it from smaller pieces of module. वही बात जो मैं आपको बार बार कह रहा हूँ कि you can break up in your large program into a smaller pieces of program जिनको हम module कहते हैं. और this technique is also known as divide and conquer, divide and rule. So you divide a bigger problem into the smaller problem and then control these smaller problems, these smaller modules together in order to carry out some complex and complicated task. So you have got number of advantages, और यहाँ मैंने कुछ advantages आपके लिए list down किए हैं कि they are easy to design functions के अंदर. Okay. आप concentrate करते हैं तो you can design a better function, you can design the better set of statements organized together, you can have a better build of the module because you are just concentrating only one little part of the problem. एक छोटे से portion के ऊपर आप concentrate कर रहे हैं, उसकी errors को debug करना और उसको build करना आपके लिए ज़्यादा आसान है, और error को debug करना भी आपके लिए बहुत आसान है. You can extend. If you want to extend the scope of a function, means you want to extend that the function should carry out the task in more detail or should carry out some additional tasks, you can extend the functionality of a function. That is much convenient because you know कि आपने किस function की functionality को extend करना है. Modification is also very easy क्योंकि you just need to concentrate on the smaller part of the program. अब अगर आपने modification करनी है पूरे program के अंदर, suppose on the left side this is the complete program that I have provided here. So if you want to make certain modification here, so you need to concentrate the whole program in order to make certain modification. कि आप जिस वेरिएबल को चेंज करने जा रहे हैं वो नीचे कहाँ कहाँ यूज हो रहा है. बट इफ यू आर कंसंट्रेटिंग ऑन टू अ स्मॉल फंक्शन, सो यू जस्ट नीड टू कंसंट्रेट इन दिस स्मॉलर पार्ट और इन दिस स्मॉलर पार्ट. ओके, सो it is easy to modify because your concentration is only to a smaller portion of the program. Then you can have a better understanding because you are much focused to smaller part of one particular problem. Reusability की भी हमने बात की कि you can reuse it. अब जहाँ जहाँ पे भी आपको function f2 की ज़रूरत है, you may require to use it 10 times in your program. You simply call it 10 times. You are not supposed to type and provide all these details 10 times. You just provide and define this function one time and call it 10 times wherever you require it. So it is, that's why we call it as its reusability is much higher. better organization. Certainly you can organize it much better as compared to one large small program. Okay, agar if it is in a small pieces of functions, then you can organize these small pieces of function more professionally and more accurately as compared to one large program. So you can call these functions from the main program. So you can call, suppose your main program is a boss, that can call the worker for function A, it can call a function B, it can call a function Z. So you can call from the main programs, you can call as many functions as you like. Similarly, even within staying within the function, you can call the other functions also. आप function के अंदर भी further functions को call कर सकते हैं. It's not mandatory कि सिर्फ आप function को main में ही call कर सकते हैं. Yes, you can call the functions by staying within the functions. Okay, so a boss asks a worker to perform a task and return the result when it is done. That is much easier. If you are doing every job by yourself, then you are in trouble. You are not a good manager. If you are a good manager, then you distribute the task. You distribute the task to each and every team members. You keep a very smaller task, that is the managerial task, for yourself. But if you concentrate on your management skills and just monitor how each and every worker is carrying out the job, then the job will be handled more professionally. Instead, if you just start doing it by yourself, who is going to find out the mistakes? आपकी mistakes कैसे पता चलेंगी? लेकिन अगर यही टास्क कोई दूसरा कर रहा होगा तो आप उसकी mistakes को monitor कर सकेंगे. Okay, so it's a good professional attitude and good professional practice to distribute the task among the workers. So same process and same technique we will apply in the computer programming while we are doing a C programming, that we distribute the task to different functions. So how can we define a function? What we need to define, what we need to learn. किसी फंक्शन को बनाने के लिए हमें क्या कुछ करना पड़ता है? What we are supposed to do? We are supposed to give a name to a function. Okay? Then function type. Function की भी type होती है. This is something new. Just like जिस तरह variable की type होती है. If a function returns an integer value, then this is an integer function. If a function returns a double value, then this function type is double. If the function returns a character, then the function type is character. If the function is not returning anything, so we cannot say it is no function, it is nothing. But it is a function, still it is a function which is called a void function. Void function means the function is doing whatever it is supposed to do, but it is not returning any data, yet it is returning void. आपको याद है void एक data type है, valid data type है C में, जिसको हम कहते हैं nothing. ये एक define करने के लिए, एक standard definition provide करने के लिए, because each and every function is supposed to return something. अब जो function return नहीं करते कुछ भी, तो फिर क्या वो function नहीं है? इसके हमने बहुत intelligently handle किया and said that if the function is not returning anything, yet it is returning nothing called void. So void is a nothing, means void is a data type stating that the function although doing a task but is not returning anything. List of parameters. कभी मैं इसको आर्गुमेंट कहूंगा, कभी मैं इसको पैरामीटर्स कहूंगा, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द एरिया, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द सिचुएशन. वी कैन कॉल इट एज एन आर्गुमेंट्स, वी कैन कॉल इट एज अ पैरामीटर. बेसिकली पैरामीटर्स आर द इनपुट्स दैट इज प्रोवाइडेड टू अ पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन. ओके, जो भी किसी फंक्शन को इनपुट प्रोवाइड किया जाता है वो उसको पैरामीटर्स की मदद से हम प्रोवाइड करते हैं. प्रिंटफ और स्कैनफ में आप ये ऑलरेडी देख चुके हैं. बट नाउ दिस टाइम वी विल लर्न हाउ टू डिफाइन the parameters and what is the list of parameter means कि एक से ज़्यादा parameters भी आप किसी फंक्शन को साथ अटैच कर सकते हैं, किसी फंक्शन के अंदर डिफाइन कर सकते हैं. Then the local variables, ये कॉन्सेप्ट भी मैंने भी आपको बताया कि local variables, whatever variable you define within a function, it is called a local variable. It is visible within the function. It is visible where you have defined it. That's why it is called a local variable. A return statement. Every function should return something. Okay? So how can it return? It can return to a calling program which is through a statement which is called a return statement. So अब gradually हमने functions के बारे में बहुत सारी हमारी knowledge जो है वो बढ़ती जा रही है, बहुत सारे concept हम discuss करते जा रहे हैं. So we will need to discuss कि function का नाम कैसे रखा जाएगा, function की type कैसे define की जाएगी, list of parameters को कैसे handle किया जाएगा. That all we will do slowly but surely. In the C language, the functions are classified into the two categories. एक library functions है और एक user defined functions है. although मैंने आपसे promise किया है कि आप भी अपनी library बना सकते हैं, लेकिन ये यहाँ पर जो जिस library का मैं जिक्र कर रहा हूँ, this library is provided with the compiler. Visual C का जो compiler आपको provide किया गया है, it contains a library. It contains a library of functions जिसमें आपके लिए already defined functions मौजूद हैं. For example, कौन कौन से? scanf, printf, getch, getche, string length, string compare, printing of power, pow, square root. There are lots and lots of functions available, and you can find the list while you are in the environment. Next time when I will be giving you hands-on demonstration, I will show you how can you find out the list of each and every function available to you that you can use it in your program. Inshallah, I will try to remember it, and at the time of demonstration I will show you how can you find the details. So main is also a function, but main एक ऐसा function है which you are supposed to fill in. एक टेम्पलेट प्रोवाइड किया गया है मेन का जिसके अंदर स्टेटमेंट्स आपने प्रोवाइड करनी है. ओके, और इट हैज गॉट सम स्पेशल प्री डिफाइंड कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स दैट वी विल डिस्कस एंड वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड फ्यू. सो वी नीड टू लर्न सर्टेन कॉन्सेप्ट्स. नंबर 1, हाउ अ फंक्शन इज इंटीग्रेटेड इनटू अ प्रोग्राम. ओके, अभी तो हमने printf, scanf देखा था, but now we want to develop our own functions. So we would like to see how can we define, and once we define and develop a function, how can we integrate it with our main program. अपने program के साथ means main के साथ और with one and the other. आपस में कैसे इसको combine करना है और main के साथ कैसे combine करना है, that we are supposed to know. Okay, and I will try to explain it. Then how two or more functions are put together. एक function तो हो गया, आपने उसको combine किया, but if there are more than one function, then how you are going to combine more than one functions together with the main program, and how they can communicate with each other. अब ये functions आपने integrate तो करविए, but how the data is exchanged, how they will exchange the information with each other, or how they should communicate with each other. This is very interesting concepts, and all these concepts we need to learn. So I'm coming back again and again the definition of the function, but each and every time I define the function, I add on few more concepts. So आप ये ना घबराएं कि मैं बार बार एक ही चीज़ repeat कर रहा हूँ, but try to listen very carefully because I am adding more and more concepts to the definition. So the user defined functions are self-contained blocks of statements which are written by the user. ठीक है, which are written by the user to compute or perform a task. ये आप और मैं जो अपने फंक्शंस को डिफाइन करते हैं, उन फंक्शंस को यूजर डिफाइंड फंक्शन कहते हैं, और जो लाइब्रेरी में पहले से मौजूद होते हैं दोज आर कॉल्ड लाइब्रेरी फंक्शन. So these functions can be called by the main program repeatedly as per the requirement. So the function definition is an independent program module that is specifically written or implement the requirements of the function. अब हम फंक्शन डेफिनेशन की बात कर रहे हैं कि अब आपने जो एक्चुअल फंक्शन जो बनाना है अपना फंक्शन, उस फंक्शन के कैसे ऑर्गेनाइज करना है, उस फंक्शन को कैसे इंटीग्रेट करना है, एंड वट एवर यू डू विद दैट इट इज कॉल्ड द डेफिनेशन ऑफ द फंक्शन. क्योंकि आपने एजुकेट करना है कंपाइलर को बाय प्रोवाइडिंग ऑल द डिटेल्स ऑफ द फंक्शन. ओके, to use this block or function we need to invoke it at the required place in the program. अब ये हम क्यों कर रहे हैं, हम एक फंक्शन को क्यों बना रहे हैं, हम एक फंक्शन को डेवलप कर रहे हैं to use it and to use it in different places of our program as and when required basis के ऊपर. So to use this block of function we need to invoke it. पहले तो मैंने आपको कहा कि आपको फंक्शन को डिफाइन करना है, उसके बाद फिर दूसरा काम क्या है, इस फंक्शन को यूज करना है. ओके, दोनों चीजें हमें करनी है, डिफाइन भी करना है और फिर उसको यूज भी करना है. द प्रोग्राम दैट कॉल्स और इन्वोक्स द फंक्शन इज रेफर्ड टू एज कॉलिंग प्रोग्राम. जिस प्रोग्राम में आप इस फंक्शन को यूज करते हैं उसको कॉलिंग प्रोग्राम कहते हैं और कॉलिंग फंक्शन कहते हैं. जाहिर है कि उस फंक्शन को कॉल तो करना है आपने, एंड इफ यू आर रिक्वायर्ड टू यूज दैट पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन देन यू आर रिक्वायर्ड टू कॉल दैट फंक्शन, एंड इन द प्रोग्राम वेयर यू कॉल दैट फंक्शन इज कॉल्ड अ कॉलिंग प्रोग्राम और कॉलिंग फंक्शन. सो सम सिमिलैरिटीज आर देयर बिटवीन द वेरिएबल्स एंड द फंक्शंस. अब वेरिएबल्स के बारे में तो हमने कहा था दे आर आल्सो कॉल्ड एज आइडेंटिफायर्स. तो फंक्शन के नाम आपको याद होगा कि जब मैंने आपको वेरिएबल के बारे में पढ़ाया था तो आई क्लियरली स्टेटेड कि द नेम ऑफ द फंक्शन इज आल्सो कंसिडर्ड एज एन आइडेंटिफायर. तो वो तमाम रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन जो हमने स्टडी किए हैं वेरिएबल नेम्स के हवाले से, दे आर ऑल implementable to the name by naming the name of a function. किसी फंक्शन का नाम रखने में आपको वही तमाम मराहिल जो हैं, वही तमाम रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन फॉलो करने हैं that we have used it to define the name of the variable. Okay, so both function names and variable names are considered as identifiers and therefore they must follow the rules of identifiers. And I'm sure by this time you know the rules of the identifier. Okay, they should not start with a digit, they should not have any special character, they should not contain space, the maximum length of the variable name is 31 characters. These all rules are applied here. Okay, and the underscore, we should not start the name of a function with underscore although it is valid, but we usually keep it for the use of the system functions, for the use of the functions that are defined by the system. उनमें थोड़ा सा एक डिफरेंस रखने के लिए हम उसको अंडरस्कोर से अपने फंक्शंस के नाम स्टार्ट नहीं करना चाहते. Like variables, functions have type associated with them. जिस तरह था ना int x, float y, double z, character ch, हर वेरिएबल के साथ we have assigned the data types. Okay, so every function has certain assigned data types just like variables. So the like variables, function names and their type must be declared and defined before they are used in a program. Before they are used in a program, before they are used. चलिए इसको इन को काट देते हैं तो it is okay. Function names and their types must be declared and defined before they are used. जैसे वेरिएबल को आपको याद होगा डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन में I skipped one definition of num या शायद num2 when the system indicated an error that unidentified identifier या आइडेंटिफायर नॉट डिक्लेयर्ड, कोई इस किस्म का हमें एरर मैसेज आया था जिसमें कंपाइलर ने कहा था कि वेरिएबल नेम हैज़ नॉट बीन डिक्लेयर्ड। सो इसमें भी आपको ऐसे मैसेज आएगा कि इफ़ यू आर यूजिंग नेम ऑफ द फंक्शन एंड इफ़ यू हैव नॉट डिक्लेयर्ड इट एंड डिफाइंड इट, do you remember the difference between declaration and definition? When we declare something, the memory is not associated. When we define something, then the memory is associated. Same goes with the function. When we declare a function, the memory is not associated, but when we define a function, then the definition had associated memory with it. So, in order to make use the user-defined function, we need to establish 3 elements. 3 चीजें आपको सीखनी जरूरी हैं: function declaration, function definition and function call. किसी भी फंक्शन को यूज करने से पहले आपको उसको डिक्लेयर करना होगा। सिस्टम को एजुकेट करने के लिए, कंपाइलर को एजुकेट करने के लिए, you are supposed to educate the compiler by declaring the function. A function declaration कैसे है? I'll come back to this in few minutes. Then the function definition. Definition क्या है कि complete construct, function के नाम से लेके arguments की list से लेकर start of curly brackets, set of valid C instructions, close of curly brackets, just like main. जैसे आपने अपना main मुख्तलिफ एक्टिविटीज़ के लिए, मुख्तलिफ टास्क के लिए मेन को आप बिल्डअप करते हैं, मेन को आप डेवलप करते हैं, इसी तरह यू आर सपोज टू डेवलप ईच एंड एवरी फंक्शन, and that is called the definition of a function. Then you should also, in order to execute the function, you need to call the function. Okay, हम उसकी भी बात करते हैं few minutes. So suppose int addition, add 2 integers, ints, this is the declaration of a function. Okay, not a declaration, it's a definition, because we have provided the body of the function also. So let us identify different things. Int, this is return type or the type of the function. जो return type होती है, that is also known as the type of the function. Add to ints is the function name. हमने इस function का नाम रखा है add to ints. Parameters, parameter की list, int a, int b. int a and b में 3 बातें हम बता रहे हैं. Number 1, variables की type. Number 2, variables के नाम. Number 3, order of the variables. Since here both are integer, so you can put them in any order, but you need to remember that we are supposed to provide 3 information. Number 1, the type of the argument. Number 2, the name of the argument, variable name. And number 3, the order of the argument. All 3 are important, that are basically the parameters or the argument. और इन सब को हम कहते हैं argument list. तो list contains the type, list contains the names, and list contains the orders. ये तीनों चीजें चाहिए. And then the body of the function, that is simply the return statement, that is returning a plus b. इन दोनों को ऐड करके it is returning that. Okay, that was very simple. हम थोड़ा सा इसको extend कर लेते हैं और इसकी generalized format भी देते हैं. तो we need to have a data type here in the beginning. Once we have a data type here, we can write down any int, float, double, signed int, unsigned int, whatever we have learned in the data type, we can define, and that becomes the type of the function, and that becomes the type of the data returned by the function. But if the function is not returning anything, then still we have got the data type, and that data type is called void. हम अगर function कोई चीज return नहीं करता, we will put a void here. Okay, then we put the function name. Remember, no space between the function name, because it follows all the rules of the identifier. Then the parameter list, और parameter list के बारे में अभी मैंने आपको बताया कि parameter list में भी आपको you got to be very careful and you need to provide all the details जो मैंने भी थोड़ी देर पहले आपको बताई. So Then within the function we define local variables. In order to execute these statements, we might be needing certain variable names. We might be needing certain variables. We might be needing certain constants. So whatever we need locally, we can define locally. Although we will also be able to use the information provided to this function through this parameter list. ये data तो है ही है हमारे पास, लेकिन for our convenience, we might declare few more variables here that help us in executing the task, and these variables are called as a local variable. And as soon as this function is terminated, this definition of the local variable is also gone. And then finally we can have a return statement. If the function is supposed to return something, then we are supposed to use the return statement, and if the function is not returning anything, then we may not use the return statement here. Okay, as I said, the function is not returning anything, so if no return data type is specified, then by default I see अगर डेटा टाइप डिफाइंड नहीं है, या एक दो बातें ना, एक तो हम कहते हैं void में we clearly specified that a function is not returning anything, but if we skip, हम void भी नहीं लिखते, हम कुछ और भी नहीं लिखते, तो by default there is a data type which is the integer data type. So if no data type is specified, no data type, remember void is a data type, void is a data type. No data type का मतलब है we don't mention any data type. Void को no नहीं कह सकते. Void is a valid data type जो indicate करती है that function is not going to return anything. So if we skip this data type, then by default the system assumes that the data type is an integer. You should remember this very important concept. So that if the function is not going to return any value, then we have to specify the return type which is void. फर्क समझ में आया दोनों का, कि अगर आप skip कर देते हैं तो function is assumed to return an integer, but if the function is not supposed to return anything, तो फिर आप उसको skip नहीं करेंगे, बल्कि आप वहां पर data type specify करेंगे which is called void. और ये तो मैं आपको बता ही दिया मैंने कि फंक्शन जो है उसका जो आइडेंटिफायर के जो रूल्स हैं आर द सेम एज द रूल्स ऑफ द आइडेंटिफायर. अब मैंने आपको बताया था फंक्शन हैज ए लिस्ट ऑफ पैरामीटर्स, ईच पैरामीटर हैज अ टाइप. ओके, इंट है, फ्लोट है, डबल है, वही जो वैलिड डेटा टाइप्स हैं, whatever valid data types we have studied in the C, आपके parameters की वो valid data type हो सकती है. And there can be no parameters, जैसे कि हमने main में देखा था. So if there is no parameter, then you can simply use parenthesis. Don't specify any variable name, or maybe you can use void there. So in the first function there are two parameters which are passed on, that is integer a, integer b, and in the next the parameters are float x and float y. This function returns integer value, whereas this function returns a float value. Okay, let's move further. Simple example, print line, I love my parents, print line. So what it does, when it's supposed to execute the first statement, and the first statement is print line, it will print this line. The control is transferred to this print line, and here for I is equal to 0, I less than 40, so 0 से 39 तक means 40 times it will print this. Okay, so it will print a line, and then new line means the control comes up here, then the control will come to the next statement, and this statement is say I love my parents, so this text will be printed here, I love my parents. उसके बाद print line again, it will be called again, so it's mean one more line will be printed here, which will be having 40 ये वाले माइनस साइंस के साथ आपने लाइन बनाई है. सो इन बिटवीन यू हैव रिटन आई लव माई पेरेंट्स. इट्स वेरी सिंपल. यू हैव कॉल्ड दिस प्रिंट लाइन फंक्शन, डिफाइंड इट once, but you have used it twice. Okay, so you are need not to repeat all these statements here and here. So you have defined this function. Maybe you are required to type 40 lines, 50 lines, 100 lines. Whenever you are supposed to write a line, you can call this function. Function declaration or prototype, another concept. अभी तक हमने फंक्शन की डिक्लेरेशन की बात की थी. मैंने आपसे कहा था कि जस्ट लाइक द वेरिएबल यू आर सपोज्ड टू डिक्लेयर द फंक्शन. अब जब फंक्शन डिक्लेरेशन आती है तो हमें क्या क्या चीजें डिक्लेयर करनी पड़ती हैं. ओके, लेट मी गो थ्रू दिस एंड देन आई विल एक्सप्लेन इट टू यू. द फंक्शन डिक्लेरेशन और प्रोटोटाइप इज डन बाय, it is done to match the number and data type of the actual and formal arguments in the calling and called function respectively. What does it mean? It's mean कि जो आपने function define किया है, whatever function you have defined, उस function को define करने में जो आपने data type use किया है. For example, you said that the function is going to return an integer value, so you must have defined a data type of the function. Data type. This should be in line with the calling program. For example, this is the calling of the function. ये calling नहीं है, by the way. It is again the same thing. इसी की definition. I will show you the example of calling again. So this is the example that you need to provide the data type here. Then need to provide the function name here, which is sum. Then data type variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, 4, 5 and variable n. So to match the number and data type of the actual and formal arguments in the calling and the called function respectively. मैंने आपको कहा था 3 चीजें आर्गुमेंट्स के लिए आपको याद रखनी है. नंबर 1 उसकी टाइप, नंबर 2 उसका नाम एंड नंबर 3 उसका ऑर्डर. Okay, so when you declare a prototype, you define their order, you define the type of the variable, you define the name of the variable, या rather declare, and you declare the order of the variable. ये तीनों चीजें define करते हैं. To check this, compiler will verify the function declaration prototype. अब किसी भी फंक्शन को जब आप कॉल करेंगे तो वो उसका प्रोटोटाइप चेक करेगा. और प्रोटोटाइप में क्या चेक करेगा कि फंक्शन के नाम के साथ हाउ मेनी आर्गुमेंट्स यू हैव प्रोवाइडेड एंड व्हाट आर द सीक्वेंस and the data type of those arguments. This is called the prototype declaration, and the prototype declaration is always written above the main. अब always written above the main का मतलब ये हुआ कि we are bound to provide the prototype before the main program, before the main function, so that it is visible. At the end of this lecture or maybe next lecture, I will give you the flexibility that how can you have certain flexibility in that. So function definition में what we have learned so far, function prototype that tells the compiler the argument type and the return type of the function. Prototype क्या बताता है? फंक्शन का नाम तो है ही है क्योंकि कॉलिंग प्रोग्राम में फंक्शन के नाम से कॉल हो रहा है. एडिशनल चीजें क्या प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं? एडिशनल चीज है कि फंक्शन रिटर्न क्या करता है, what does the function return and what is the argument list. I am repeating it again and again so that you just remember that कि प्रोटोटाइप में हमें फंक्शन की नाम तो पता ही पता है. क्यों? When we call a function, we know the name of the function. But with the prototype, the compiler is educated and compiler is informed that the function is integer, although its name is square, and the argument list is just one single character, which is an integer. So we'll keep on explaining it in more detail later on. Calling and invoking a function. अब हमने फंक्शन को प्रोटोटाइप भी कर दिया, मीन्स डिक्लेयर भी कर दिया फंक्शन को डिफाइन भी कर दिया. नाउ वी नीड टू कॉल द फंक्शन. हाउ कैन वी कॉल द फंक्शन? बाय सिंपली राइटिंग द नेम ऑफ द फंक्शन. फॉर एग्जांपल इस फंक्शन का नाम है स्क्वायर. वी सिंपली राइट द नेम ऑफ द फंक्शन एंड देन प्रोवाइड द आर्गुमेंट. अब हमें पता है कि this function requires an integer argument, so we need to pass it on this argument. So the parenthesis, an operator used to call the function. Whenever with the variable name there is a parenthesis, the compiler quickly assumes that you have called a function. अब इसके अंदर अगर argument है, whatever you have written within the parenthesis, those are considered as argument. जो कुछ भी आप उसमें लिखते हैं, that is considered as an argument of that particular function. So the function gets its own copy of arguments. After going through some examples, I will come back to this and explain it further. So general syntax क्या बना? Return value type of the function, then the function name, then the parameter list, and then this, and then the declaration of the variable. अब इस information में और जो पिछली information थी उसमें फ़र्क क्या है? Here I have used all the buzzwords, all the words that are related to professionally defined a function. For example, return value type. Return value type is a word, 3-word definition that indicate that what is the data type returned by a function. So we call it as a return value type. Remember that. अभी जो कुछ मैं आपको explain कर रहा था उसके नाम मैं अपनी मर्जी से रख रहा था. But in this particular example, I have very precisely and accurately tried to define the buzzwords which are used. Then function name, whatever name you give to a function, it is called the function name. The data returned by the function is called return value type. Whatever you provide in the parenthesis is called parameter list. This is the start and end of the function. Start of the function, end of the function. Declaration of the local variables and statements. Within this parenthesis, आप दो काम कर सकते हैं. If I can go back quickly and I could like to show you, ये यहाँ पे आपने लोकल वेरिएबल्स डिफाइन किए, यहाँ पे आपने फिर एग्जीक्यूटेबल स्टेटमेंट्स रखी, यहाँ पे मैंने इसको डेटा टाइप दिया, फंक्शन नेम दिया, पैरामीटर लिस्ट दी. बट नाउ आई एम डिफाइनिंग इट एज पर concepts given, and this is called the return type, function name, parameter list, declaration of variables and statements that you do within the body of the function. So the function definition should have all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 concepts. कौन से भाई? मैंने जल्दी कह दिया 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 1, return value type. Number 2, function name. Number 3, parameter list. पैरामीटर लिस्ट में बहुत डिटेल्स एक्सप्लेन कर चुका हूँ. Number 4, start and end of the function. Number 5, declaration of local variables. Number 6, valid statement of C. इन 6 चीजों से मिलके आप फंक्शन की डेफिनेशन प्रोवाइड करते हैं. पैरामीटर लिस्ट में आई ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन कर चुका हूं कि यू कैन पुट एज मेनी पैरामीटर्स एज यू वांट, बट एट द टाइम यू आर गोइंग टू कॉल अ फंक्शन यू सेपरेट देम थ्रू अ कॉमा. So data type needed for each argument. हर argument का आपको data type प्रोवाइड करना है. Then each data type is separated by a comma. If no argument, you can use void or you can use the empty brackets. या तो आप इसको parenthesis start और parenthesis close कर दें, means के the function is not taking any argument. या आप इसकी जगह पर भी void लिख दें. Return type, data type or result return, you can use void if nothing is returned, like you can say void main void. Okay, so this is the general syntax and the general concept of the definition. अब इसी definition को quickly हम example के अंदर convert करते हैं. Integer, square, int y. This is the return data type. This is the name of the function. This is the argument list which has got just one data that contains the data type and the variable name. Okay, start of bracket, end of bracket. That indicates start and end of the function. Then it contains the valid statement. Please don't worry if I just speak very quickly or बहुत fast मैं explain कर रहा हूँ, because I have repeated these concepts again and again. तो वो concept जो मैंने बहुत बार explain किए, so I'm going through it bit faster. Return is a keyword. आप इसको वेरिएबल के तौर पर यूज नहीं कर सकते, इट इज ए कीवर्ड, सो दैट रिटर्न्स द डेटा एंड कंट्रोल्स गो बैक टू द कॉलर प्रोग्राम। जहां से इस प्रोग्राम को कॉल किया था वहां पे कंट्रोल वापस चला जाता है। एंड इफ नो डेटा टू रिटर्न, डू नॉट यूज रिटर्न। अगर आपका void फंक्शन है देन डोंट यूज रिटर्न। ओके, फंक्शन एंड्स व्हेन रीचेस राइट ब्रेसेस। जब यहाँ पर पहुंचता है तो फंक्शन कंप्लीट हो जाती है उसकी एग्जीक्यूशन एंड कंट्रोल गोज बैक टू द कॉलर प्रोग्राम। फंक्शन कैन नॉट बी डिफाइंड इनसाइड अदर फंक्शन। Don't try to define a function within a function. It is not allowed. Okay. So, हमने function definition को professionally देख लिया. Let's talk about the calling of the function. So, function is called by the calling program. I have explained you that you can call any function in a program which is called the calling program or calling function. And how can we do that? We can simply write down the name. Just write the sum is the name of the function. So I've just used here sum and I'm calling it. अब देखिए, I've given you 3 examples. In the first example, I've used the function in the output. In the second example, I've used the function, not I've called the function. Sorry, I repeat again. In printf statement में, printf के functions में, I have used sum a comma b. I've called this function sum a comma b. Okay, as an output. दूसरी option I've used as a statement, as an assignment statement. sum का जो data आ रहा है, first में it will print out by printf statement or printf function. Second में the result of sum ab is assigned to answer. और third example में print line मैंने इसको use किया है, just a function that will do its job by simply writing its name. So we can call a function either as an output or as an assignment or as an independent statement of the C language. So function is called using the name with required number of arguments in the parentheses. Rules of calling a function. Function is called by the main और एनी अदर फंक्शन. मैंने आपको शुरू में बताया था, आप मेन में भी कॉल कर सकते हैं और आप किसी फंक्शन में भी कॉल कर सकते हैं. सो द व्हेन द रिटर्न टाइप ऑफ द फंक्शन इज ओमिटेड, देन द डिफॉल्ट द रिटर्न टाइप इज इंटीजर. अब ये तमाम रूल्स मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन कर चुका हूँ, जस्ट रिवाइज कर रहा हूँ, रिपीट कर रहा हूँ, सो दैट यू जस्ट remember these rules. A function can return a value any stage of its execution by using more than one return statement. It doesn't consider good practice, but you are allowed to use more than one return statement at different places. The return statement is omitted if it does not return a value directly to the calling program. मैंने आपसे कहा कि अगर void है function तो आप return statement ना use करें. Argument listed can be omitted. Sorry, argument list can be omitted, but not the parenthesis. अगर आप function is not taking any argument, तो argument list skip कर दें या void लिख दें उसकी जगह पर. लेकिन you are bound to put the parenthesis. Start and close of parenthesis is mandatory. Okay, good. Some examples of the calling function. Here I am using it as a cout, square root of 900, square root, this is the name of the function. The preceding statement will print, this statement will print 30, क्योंकि 900 का square root is 30. So a function in the math library return a double. I'll come back to this in the math library very quickly. So the function arguments can be either a constant, 9 is a constant. Function argument can be a variable, x is a variable. Function argument can be an expression, x multiplied by 9 plus y is an expression, or even function argument could be a function itself. जो square root of x आएगा उसका square root ये दोबारा लेगा. Okay, so we pass it on x. So first it will compute the square root of x. The output, for example, square root of 900 is returned as 30. So the square root of x is equal to 30, and then it will take the square root of 30. Okay, you can do that. So I have given you 4 examples of calling of function by passing the argument as a constant, passing the argument as a variable, passing the argument as an expression, passing the argument as an function itself. ये मैं आपको explain कर चुका हूँ पहले. It is just quickly, just to repeat. You can go through this details provided in this slide. So there are some functions जो मैंने आपसे कहा that are available in the library, or there is a specific library which is called a math library. The math library contains the functions which are considered as the math functions. I'll quickly go through it. So C++ includes a library of math function that you can use it. So you have to know how to call these functions. आपको उस लाइब्रेरी को यूज करने के लिए it is important that you should know how to call these functions before you can use them. Then you should also know that you have to know what they return. पहले तो आपने उसको यूज कैसे करना है, दूसरे you should know what they return, but you need not to know how they compute. For example, आपको ये देखना है कि स्क्वायर रूट को आपने कॉल कैसे करना है, स्क्वायर रूट जो है रिटर्न क्या करता है, बट हाउ इट कंप्यूट्स द स्क्वायर रूट, दिस इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड कि आपको ये पता हो कि स्क्वायर रूट ये कंप्यूट कैसे करता है. एज लॉन्ग एज यू नो द मैथमेटिकल फंक्शन ऑफ द स्क्वायर रूट दैट इज सफिशिएंट, लेकिन उसकी डिटेल में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. सो फॉर एग्जांपल दिस स्क्वायर रूट यू कैन कॉल स्क्वायर रूट इफ इट इज रिटर्निंग डबल और इट इज गेटिंग द आर्गुमेंट एज ए डबल, सो यू कैन सिंपली कॉल इट. आप डिक्लेयर करें x को डबल, y को डबल, और देन यू कैन से x इज इक्वल टू स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ y, और यू कैन ऑल्सो सेंड x इज इक्वल टू स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ 100. इफ इट इज डबल तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा, आई विल जस्ट शो यू कि इफ y was 100 बिफोर we call square root, it will always be 100 after calling the square root. ये तो उसके आर्गुमेंट का ताल्लुक है, but what it will do that it will convert 100 as an integer to double by itself. That is the facility that is provided by the function itself. So the input we give to a function is called, it's an argument, and y is the argument here. These are just repetition what I have already explained it to you. So let's move forward and write down the table of square roots. I is equal to 1, I less than 10, increment I plus plus, square root of I. So it will output square root of I 1, 2, 3. So when I is equal to 1 it is 1, I is 2 it is 4, square root of 4. So it will compute the square root and give you the output. You just run this program and find out the values it should print. Here we are supposed to provide I as a double, but don't worry, मैंने आपको भी बताया कि it will automatically provide the type conversion. Type conversion क्या है, we will study it. किसी लेक्चर में मैं आपको टाइप कन्वर्जन जो है उसके बारे में बताऊंगा, बट अभी ये है कि ऑटोमेटिकली इंटीजर से डबल में कन्वर्ट कर देगा फंक्शन इसको, बिकॉज द फंक्शन एक्सपेक्ट अ डबल वैल्यू. सो इफ इट यू प्रोवाइड यू द फंक्शन एज ए 1, तो इट विल कन्वर्ट इट to 1.0 and it will give you the result and the output. So how can you tell the compiler where to find square root? How does the compiler know that sqrt is a square root and it should have certain definition? So you have to tell it, you have to tell the compiler, and in this case either you declare or defined by yourself or provide the name of the library that contains the definition of the function. Since math, this square root is available in the library called math.h, so here you will provide include math.h. So C++ includes a library जो मैंने भी आपको थोड़ी देर पहले बताया था कि this is called a math library. So you need to know कि how can you call that, and then you need to know what it should return, but you don't need to know how does it compute. So these are some examples: sieving of x, cos of x, explanation of x, exponent of f, exponential values of x means exponent of 1.0 is e to the power 1 is 2.71878. E to the power 2 is equal to 7.38960. So when you pass exp 1, it will return this. When you pass 2.0, it will return this. When you pass floor X, it will convert 9.2 to 9.0. And if you say ceiling of X, it will convert 9.2 to 10.0. Okay, these are some mathematical terminologies. I expect that you know the mathematical terminologies, but here the purpose is that you are allowed to use these mathematical library that is available in your environment, and you can use this function. Just need to know कि आपने उसको इनपुट कैसे प्रोवाइड करनी है, किस फॉर्मेट में उसको आपने इनपुट देनी है, और फंक्शन आपको जो चीज़ रिटर्न कर रहा है वो किस फॉर्मेट में आपको रिटर्न कर रहा है. ओके, विद दिस आई कंक्लूड द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द फंक्शंस इंट्रोडक्शन. नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में I will revise few of the very important concepts, and I will give you some more detail regarding the functions. Till then, Khuda Hafiz.